Peace, Love, Liberty Radio version 4.1. Initializing upgrades. Accessing peace. Existing without violence. With the ability to calmly resolve conflict. Downloading love. An overwhelming, deep, positive affection towards others. Activating liberty. Living your life as you see fit without infringing on the lives of others.
Ashes to ashes, we're falling down. Slaves to the men that stole the crown. There's a warning sign, like a blazing sun. You don't want to see because you're having fun. But those who control all the information celebrate and lie to the people to keep them watching.
Welcome to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. I am your host. I'm Darryl W. Perry, the uncut cocaine of libertarianism. Now, I know that term, or at least I'm guessing that term come up by some writer somewhere a couple weeks ago, was probably meant to be some kind of an insult. But, you know, I actually, I like it. I actually like it. I've decided to take it, and I'm going to turn it into a positive because, you know, that's kind of a good thing, right? Focusing on the positive. Well, sometimes there's the claim that focusing on the positive can actually be counterproductive. Now, I know, ever since episode 300, I've been, trying to focus on the positive, trying to become a better version of myself while I help you become a better version of yourself. But today I want to, try to do a sort of devil's advocate sort of episode, if that makes any sense. So I'm jumping into an article from lifehack.org titled, How Focusing on the Positive Can Be Counterproductive. They say whenever something bad happens or we are feeling down, people often tell us to keep our chin up, to look for the silver lining and focus on the positives. The truth is that sometimes this is unhelpful and patronizing. When we're feeling sad or angry, or when we've been through a rough time, we need our feelings validated, and we need to acknowledge the negativity in a healthy way in order to move forward. And this is something that I think a lot of people do, and it's not necessarily an intentional thing that they do, but a lot of times people do unintentionally invalidate other people's feelings. So, for instance, if somebody's having a bad day, then somebody that's all in a happy-go-lucky, cheery mood will come over and say, well, there's so many people that have it worse than you. Why are you sad? Think of the starving children in Africa that have it so much worse than you. They would love to have your problems if they also had food. There are people that have it so much worse than you. And I realize that the people that are saying that, they're trying to, somehow cheer you up of, hey, just think of how good you have it. But what they're doing is they're actually invalidating your feelings. Now, you could turn this around, and if somebody says, I'm having such a good day, well, you really shouldn't be having a good day. Think of all the people that have it better than you. People would laugh and say you're being absurd by trying to invalidate somebody's happiness, but somehow it has become acceptable in at least American culture to invalidate people's sadness or to invalidate people's depression. And yes, sadness and depression are not necessarily the same things. Somebody can be happy and also be lonely and depressed. And I realize you might be thinking, wait a second, that seems like, oxymoron sort of statements. But depression is really sort of, and I'm not using a textbook definition here by any stretch of the imagination, but, as it's been defined or described to me by people that have been diagnosed with depression, is it's really sort of a lack of being able to really find joy in things that you do, or to find joy in your happiness. So certainly, like, I can put on a smile, have a smile on my face, and appear outwardly happy, but on the inside, just be absolutely miserable and, feel all alone, even though I'm surrounded by people. But, again, in America, at least, I don't know about Canada or anywhere in Europe or anywhere else people might be listening to this show, but at least here in the United States where I live, it does seem to be very acceptable to invalidate people's sadness and depression. Again, by saying that, well, you should just focus on the silver lining. Getting back to the article from lifehack.org, they say, that does not mean that we should wallow in bad feelings and harbor destructive tendencies. That they're talking about is acknowledging negativity in a healthy way in order to move forward. That does not mean that we should wallow in bad feelings and harbor destructive tendencies. Instead, we need to look for opportunities to see the bright side in healthy, constructive ways. We also need to give attention to negativity and address the things that are uncomfortable and unpleasant. It's important to find healthy ways of focusing on the positives. When we face adversity, it's vital to keep things in perspective so that we don't spiral into depression and despair. Having an attitude of appreciation and gratitude about the things that are going right will help to balance our negative feelings. A good way to do this is to consider two things. Firstly, things that can always be worse. And secondly, if things can't get any worse, that they can only get better. So what's the saying? When you're at the bottom, the only way left to go is up, right? Although I guess you could sort of go lateral. You could go in a horizontal motion. You're not improving your state, but you're definitely not in the same position that you necessarily were. But again, if you're at the bottom, you can't go any more down. The article continues, we should maintain awareness of privilege and ask ourselves, in the scheme of things, how bad our situation really is. Does what we are going through impact our physical safety and our health? Will it change our life dramatically in the long term, or is it a minor hiccup only causing temporary discomfort and inconvenience? I'll get back into this and more here on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
The Doublespeak Dictionary by Leslie Starr O'Hara satirizes the marked difference between the ideal of we the people and the reality of we the elite, while offering an insightful glimpse into the clockworks of the totalitarian mind. Ever irreverent but never irrelevant, the Doublespeak Dictionary serves as a subversive and humorous but timely reminder that the emperor has no clothes. The Doublespeak Dictionary is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at weusecoins.com. That's weusecoins.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. Now, you may have noticed, and I know I pointed out on Wednesday, but you may have noticed the new intro beds, the new voice at the beginning. Actually, it's not necessarily a new voice, but it's a new set of words by an old voice, the same woman that voiced the intros for version 4.0 is voicing the intros for version 4.1. Now, I know you're not necessarily supposed to, like in the radio business, you're not supposed to point out the intros and commercial breaks and rejoiners, stuff along those lines. But, well, I just want to let you know where I got those intros. I got them on Fiverr. And if you use my affiliate link, fiverr.fppradio.com, that's Fiverr, 2 R's in the word, fiverr.fppradio.com, then somehow I get some kind of referral bonus. And there's all kinds of things available on Fiverr. The voiceover people work incredibly cheap. The graphic design people work incredibly cheap. And there's so much more. And a lot of times you'll find somebody that lives in, some far-off foreign country willing to do stuff incredibly cheap. I got an animated whiteboard video several months ago for the presidential campaign. And basically I paid this guy in India $30 US. And then I was curious, how much is $30 worth in India? And did the conversion. And all right, so what's the typical amount of rent that someone pays in India? And I figured that, after doing some calculation, that I may have paid this guy's rent for the month, or I may have paid like half of the guy's rent for a month. That's incredibly cheap. $30 US, pay some guy's rent in India for a month to do a whiteboard animation that I have no clue how to do. So, again, if you need stuff done for a business, a podcast, or any sort of other activity or organization that you're heading up, go over to fiverr.fppradio.com. That's fiverr.fppradio.com. Jumping back into the article from lifehack.org, where they're telling you some ways to sort of look at your situation. If you have negative feelings, some ways that you can look at this to then find the positives in a natural, healthy way. Not just somebody saying, well, find the silver lining, buck up, kid. Think of all the people that have it worse than you. You're just being selfish. No, it's okay to be selfish every now and then. It's okay to, deal with your emotions. But they say that you should maintain an awareness of privilege and ask yourself, in the grand scheme of things, how bad is your situation? Does what you're going through impact your physical safety? Will it change your life dramatically in the long term, or is it only a minor hiccup causing a temporary discomfort and inconvenience? Often our emotional reactions are exaggerated because we're accustomed to a certain lifestyle or pattern, and when things go wrong, our comfort zone is compromised. We can overreact. That's not to say that our initial feelings aren't valid, but a brief moment of reflection will allow us to separate our immediate reactive response from what is actually an appropriate and warranted reaction in a given situation. It is precisely in the face of misfortune when experiencing joy is vital. There should be no guilt or shame for taking pleasure in the things that make us happy, even when a situation calls for grief or sadness. Laughter is indeed the best medicine, and reminding ourselves about the things we love and the things that make us happy in the midst of a crisis is a good way to even out our emotions and help bring things into perspective. It gives us the relief and motivation we need to energize ourselves to get through hardship. Living in the moment will take us away from the response to a bad situation that is often playing out in our minds rather than in reality. And this is something that's very important because I do this all the time. And I talked about this a good bit on the Understanding Extroverted Introverts episode about how extroverted introverts and introverts in general live in their mind, to where there are scenarios that I replay in my mind over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, even though I know I can't change them. But I sort of psychoanalyze myself of, well, if I would have done this differently, then what would have happened? And if I would have said this instead of this, or if I would have said this instead of being silent, then could that have affected the outcome? And if so, how? And what would happen next? And what would happen after that? Sort of the alternate history sort of thing. And I don't know if you're a fan of the YouTube channel Alternate History Hub, But I love that channel because they do go through these scenarios of what would happen if. And there was a video that I watched a few days ago is what would happen if the Russian Revolution never happened. And they said, well, we really can't say because there were several revolutions that happened in just a couple of years. So we're going to assume for this video that we're talking about this first revolution, because then the second one wouldn't have happened and the third one wouldn't have happened. But then World War I may not have happened because this, and then World War II and that and this other thing. And those things are just very interesting to me. And I know you can't go back and undo things, but you need to just, again, try to figure out if the situation is actually happening or if it's just something that is happening only in your head. Often the psychological effects of a run of bad luck can be very powerful and crippling, stopping us from doing even simple day-to-day activities. Having a distraction from the drama and focusing on the positives in a healthy way is best achieved by paying attention to the present. Sharpening our awareness of exactly what we are doing and where we are right now can be a potent strategy to take our minds off things. The good things in life are already good. Let's not taint them. While putting things into perspective may inevitably mean making a comparison, we should be careful to avoid taking pleasure in others' suffering. Schadenfreude is the German word literally meaning harm joy. Now, I'll not finish this article, but I will post it in the show notes, and I want to skip over to another article, again, sort of playing a devil's advocate sort of thing here on this episode of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
In 1999, Darryl W. Perry began a search for traditional values, which led him down a path to the ideas of liberty. He tells the story in A Rebel's Journey, My Path to Liberty. Of the book, Dr. Brian Sovereign says, sometimes it's funny, and sometimes I think it's crazy, but it's always authentic. Find A Rebel's Journey, My Path to Liberty by Darryl W. Perry on Facebook, read reviews on Amazon, ask for A Rebel's Journey wherever books are sold, or visit arebelsjourney.com.
It is the year 91,001 BCE. Witness humanity's origins in Hyperchronius, a classic role-playing game for Windows PCs, with a story like no other game before. A liberty-oriented experience that is not to be missed. Go to ZOG.Ninja to get your copy of Hyperchronius today. Use the code FPP to get $1 off. Hyperchronius, ZOG.Ninja, code FPP.
This is Jeremy Scott, host of Dark 30. You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry.
Hey, welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. You may have heard, and I know I sure have over the last dozen years or so, you have to love yourself first before anybody else can. Well, Psychology Today says that that might actually be a myth. What? What do you mean it's a myth? Well, let me jump into the article. They say there's a psychological myth going around that you have to love yourself before someone else can love you. The real truth is that many people learn to love themselves by first being loved by someone else. If you never had a loving family, it's more difficult to build healthy self-esteem. Appropriate affection from another person may be a magic touch. You need to actually believe that you are indeed lovable. When someone you admire gives his or her heart to you, it makes you feel cherished, and in turn, you learn to love yourself. The author of this article says, I know a number of people who were only able to develop self-love after someone who made them feel worthwhile came into their lives. For many, this love blossomed into a healthy, lifelong relationship. For others, it was an experience that put them on a path to finding their true purpose in life. In many support groups, one of the things that helps a person recover is that the group loves the individual until he or she learns to love themselves. This is also one of the ways in which therapy helps individuals heal from depression, loss, and addiction. On the other hand, they say we all know people who are in love with themselves. They're called narcissists. When someone is totally self-absorbed, he or she may not have room in their hearts to care for another human being. When looks, power, or charisma begin to fade, many people with this issue find themselves depressed and very alone. If you put yourself before all others and ignore the needs and feelings of those closest to you, you'd better get a grip and change your behavior before your loved ones take a hike. It's very difficult to keep loving, or rather to keep giving love to someone who seldom or never returns it. For those people who are struggling with loving themselves, getting reassurance and support from a loving partner is very important in the healing process. Reminding someone who is struggling with self-acceptance that he or she deserves to be loved is a true gift from the heart. If you have to continually ask your partner if he or she loves you, or if your partner is never able to take in the love you have to share, both of you may want to seek some additional support. If you let the pattern continue, your relationship will not have the strength or the ability to grow. And this is something that I'm very glad a friend of mine shared this article with me a couple of days ago. I forget what I had posted on Facebook, but one of my friends posted about, like the whole, it's BS to say that, nobody will ever love you until you love yourself. And it's actually, the term they used was it's ableist. And I don't know if I would necessarily say that, but I do think that in some way it's sort of defeatist, if you will, especially for somebody that, might deal with minor depression. To say, oh, well, you just have to keep improving as a human, and you have to love yourself before anybody can ever love you. And if you're incapable of loving yourself, then you're just destined to be alone for the rest of your life. Just keep improving. Become a better person. Lose more weight. Make more money. Just be better looking. There's all these kinds of things of exactly what does somebody mean when they say improve yourself, be a better person. Are they talking about emotionally, a more emotionally mature person? Are they talking about be a, more physically accepting person? And maybe I've just been dealing with some real a-holes lately, and I that's not to discount the wonderful people that I know that, have been just kind, wonderful people to me. But over the last several months, I've had some people say some absolutely mean, horrible things to me that I would not dream of saying to my worst enemy. And it's, taken an emotional toll. I'm not afraid to say it. And I realize that, this is something that men aren't supposed to talk about their feelings. And that's really, that's BS, quite frankly. Because how are you ever supposed to wind up dealing with your emotions if you're never allowed to say that you have them? That's one of the reasons that some people speculate that men die earlier, is because, no, you're a man, you're not supposed to talk about your emotions, just bottle that stuff up. And so men bottle stuff up, and they bottle it up, and they bottle it up, and then they have a heart attack, or they have a stroke, or, something else. They become addicted to drugs or alcohol, or drugs and alcohol, and then, bad things happen physically. So, no, I'm not afraid to talk about the fact that I have emotions. I'm not afraid to talk about what my emotions are. But, at some point, those things just sort of wear you down. And they wear you down. And at some point, you lose the strength to even say, no, that stuff's not true. It's just the whole, if you're getting beat up and you get beat up, at some point you're just going to cower into a ball and stop even trying to fight back. There's more here in the closing moments on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
Coinbase is a simple and secure online Bitcoin wallet for sending, receiving, and storing Bitcoin. Coinbase also allows you to buy and sell Bitcoin using a bank account or use their tools to accept Bitcoin as a merchant. Coinbase has more than 1 million consumer wallets and is trusted by over 25,000 merchants, including Overstock.com, Khan Academy, Reddit, and of course, FPP. Get started at coinbase.fppradio.com. You can support FPP Radio by joining the Fans program. Fans are friends, allies, and numerous supporters. Fans help FPP afford to produce more original content. You can join the Fans program for as little as $3 per month through Patreon and get perks like ad-free versions of FPP Radio News and Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com. That's fans.fppradio.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry.
Hey, welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. As always, I will post the links to the articles in the show notes. I thought it would take a little bit longer to go through that Psychology Today article, but it did not. And as I mentioned on Wednesday, I'm going to try, in this closing segment, promoting either one of my affiliates or one of the projects that I'm working on. And, well, today I want to make sure that I tell you about Liberty Lobby LLC. It's a project that I started about 2 months ago. Actually, just over 2 months ago. I began Liberty Lobby LLC just about a week and a half, almost 2 weeks after the presidential campaign ended in Orlando over Memorial Day weekend. And what is Liberty Lobby LLC? Well, Liberty Lobby LLC is my attempt to crowdfund a lobbyist. Now, for the past couple of years, while I've been living in New Hampshire, I've been on a regular basis going to the State House, testifying to various legislative committees in favor of pro-freedom legislation and in opposition to anti-freedom legislation. And what I'm trying to do with Liberty Lobby LLC is to be able to raise funds so that I can afford to spend more time at the State House when the legislature is in session, basically from early January through about mid-April, mid-May. And your contributions of as little as $5, preferably $5 a month, because this is going to be, recurring donations that I'm looking for primarily, but a one-time contribution is good as well. But your contributions allow me to be able to afford to take extra days off work, because when I'm not working, when I'm not calling radio stations trying to get Free Talk Live on more radio stations across the country, I'm not getting paid. So what I've been doing for the past couple of years is doing a cost-benefit analysis in my head of which one of these days off is it going to be basically okay for me to miss. I can miss a Tuesday or a Thursday, but I can't necessarily miss both. Well, your contributions to Liberty Lobby LLC will help me be able to afford to, every time there's legislation that's either pro-liberty that needs somebody speaking in favor or anti-liberty that needs somebody speaking against, I can be at the State House fighting for your freedom as a lobbyist for liberty. LibertyLobby.xyz. Hey, don't forget, every Wednesday I answer your questions. Send those over ama@fppradio.com.
The podcasts of FPP Radio are licensed under Copy Heart. We believe that copying is a form of flattery and do not abide by the copyright laws. Those laws serve to restrict the flow of ideas which no one can really own. Copying is an act of love. Love is not subject to law. If you enjoy the show, consider joining the Fans program and get perks like ad-free versions of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio and FPP Radio News, and also get a copy of the monthly newspaper FPP News. To learn more or to join the Fans Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com.